Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. The Iraqi Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a carefully worded statement on Tuesday, welcoming a significant diplomatic breakthrough that has the potential to reduce tensions in the Middle East, a ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel. This development, which comes after months, if not years, of heightened hostilities, complex regional entanglements, and threats of widespread escalation, marks a moment of cautious optimism in a region often plagued by instability, power rivalries, and deep-seated mistrust. In its statement, Iraq emphasized the importance of the United States' role in brokering this fragile peace. Specifically, the ceasefire came into effect earlier in the day under the terms of a declaration made by U.S. President Donald Trump. The declaration, described by many as sweeping and assertive, calls for a comprehensive and complete cessation of all hostilities between Iran and Israel. While the situation on the ground remains delicate, the fact that the ceasefire has held for 12 consecutive days already is seen by Baghdad as a promising sign that tensions are beginning to ease and that a path toward more enduring dialogue may be opening. Iraq's response to the ceasefire is rooted in its unique position in the regional geopolitical landscape. Having suffered through decades of war, internal strife, foreign interventions, and sectarian violence, Iraq is deeply aware of the human and economic cost of prolonged conflict. Baghdad understands all too well that any escalation between neighboring powers, especially one involving two military and ideological heavyweights like Iran and Israel, could spill over into its own territory, threatening the fragile recovery and reconstruction efforts that have been underway in Iraq for years. This understanding adds weight to Iraq's call for de-escalation and its support for peace initiatives, however tentative or early stage they might be. The timing of this ceasefire is also significant. For months, global attention has been fixated on escalating confrontations involving military skirmishes, cyber attacks, targeted assassinations, and threats of a broader war that could draw in multiple countries across the region. Numerous analysts had begun to fear that the situation might spiral beyond containment. The ceasefire's implementation, especially under the banner of a U.S. presidential initiative, shows that diplomacy can still function in even the most heated circumstances. It reveals that, despite all the bluster, back-channel negotiations, mediators, and strategic calculations are still actively shaping outcomes behind the scenes. Moreover, the ceasefire's survival over the past 12 days sends a powerful message to those who believe that the conflict between Iran and Israel was simply too deep-rooted to be paused, let alone resolved. While no one is under the illusion that this truce is a permanent solution, the fact that both nations have held their fire for nearly 2 weeks is a demonstration of restraint. It is a signal that both parties may be looking to avoid mutual destruction and may, under the right conditions, be willing to explore alternatives to continued hostility. From Iraq's perspective, this is not only a cause for cautious optimism but also a moment of strategic opportunity. If regional powers can maintain the ceasefire, and if global diplomatic momentum continues to support peaceful solutions, Iraq stands to benefit immensely. Stability in the region will create a more secure environment for investment, reconstruction, and regional cooperation. It will allow Iraq to continue diversifying its economy, strengthening its banking system, and attracting foreign companies eager to participate in rebuilding a country rich in oil, history, and untapped human potential. Iraq's own experiences with war and diplomacy have taught it that ceasefires can be fleeting and that peace agreements require enforcement, verification, and the political will to overcome decades of suspicion and animosity. Thus, while welcoming the current ceasefire, Iraqi officials are also likely to be monitoring the situation closely, remaining alert to the risk that a single violation, provocation, or miscalculation could unravel the agreement and return the region to a state of volatility. Baghdad's endorsement of the U.S. initiative also subtly aligns it with broader international norms, such as the need for multilateral diplomacy and respect for sovereign states. By commending an American-led peace effort that directly affects its two powerful neighbors, Iraq is reinforcing its own commitment to a rules-based international order, something it has been advocating for in its dealings with the United Nations, the Arab League, and other international organizations. This alignment further reinforces the image of Iraq as a state committed to playing a constructive role in the region. There is also a humanitarian dimension to Iraq's support for the ceasefire. Both Iran and Israel are nations with significant populations, economies, and regional ambitions. A full-scale war between them would have catastrophic consequences, not just for the warring states but for the civilian populations caught in the middle, for the refugee flows that would almost certainly surge, and for the broader Middle Eastern landscape, where conflicts in one country have a way of bleeding into others. Iraq, which has already hosted waves of refugees from Syria, Palestine, and even internal displacements caused by ISIS, is deeply aware of the costs of humanitarian crises. Supporting the ceasefire is therefore also a way of supporting human life, dignity, and the right to live free of war. In summary, Iraq's welcoming of the ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel reflects much more than a standard diplomatic gesture. It is a clear indication of Baghdad's desire to see the region stabilize, to avoid being drawn into conflicts not of its choosing, and to continue focusing on rebuilding a society still recovering from decades of strife. The fact that this ceasefire has lasted 12 days is not being taken lightly in Baghdad. It is being seen as a sign that perhaps, just perhaps, a different future is possible. One where dialogue replaces drones, and negotiations replace night raids. The role of the United States, specifically the declaration by President Donald Trump, adds another layer to this moment. Regardless of political divides or ideological leanings, Iraq's government has recognized the importance of this American effort. In doing so, it has demonstrated a pragmatic approach to international diplomacy, willing to engage with any actor who furthers the cause of peace. Whether this ceasefire holds in the long term remains to be seen. But for now, Iraq has taken a principled stance, and in doing so, contributed to the possibility of a more peaceful regional order. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed and stay ready.